Hello, hello, and welcome back to the show. I am your host, Megan Hardy, and I'm the founder of Fitness Uncharted, which is a fitness and nutrition coaching company that I designed to help women build muscle, lose body fat, and improve your metabolism so that you can feel healthy and confident in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. And today, guys, we are talking about injuries and preventing muscle loss or muscle atrophy, and how you can also prevent fat gain when you've had an injury or when you are having to take time off of training. So, this actually came from a question in our free Facebook group. If you are not in the Fitness Uncharted Facebook group, I don't know why not. Go join. The link to the Facebook group is in the show notes and it's free to join. You do have to be a lady, a female, to join that group, but we give away a lot of resources in there. We do weekly live trainings in there, all kinds of good stuff. And we do a bunch of challenges. So go check out the group. But this actually was a question from someone in our group asking about how do I prevent fat gain and also prevent losing muscle after having an injury and having to take time off. So that's what we're going to address today. And before we jump in, I just also wanted to share real quick that I just got back from a walk with my sister and how just like it's the best. If you have a sister, I hope you all have a close relationship. If you don't have a sister, I'm so sorry, because it's like one of the best things. Like my sister is one of my best friends, and we just like thankfully, right as of now, recording this, we live pretty close to each other, and just to get to go for a walk and talk with her is like literally a stress reliever in my life, and it's also hilarious, because she's my older sister. There's like 3.5 years between us. And shout out to Melissa. But she is definitely the type A older sister. Like if you see any reels that show like the traditional older sister role versus younger sister, like she's the one with the whole itinerary when we go on a trip or go to the airport. She's the one like checking all the gates and checking the routes and all of that. I'm the one that just shows up with my Starbucks and like, where are we going? That is totally us to a T. Like I am the like spontaneous, like, what are we doing? And she's the one with the plan. There always has to be that one friend or that one sister in the relationship, right? So anyway, I just got back from a walk with her a little while ago. So I'm just like, I'm feeling good right now. I also got to see my best friend today too. So it's just a good day. It's a good day. Like had a lot of good heart to heart girl talk time. And we all need that, ladies. So like that's what I also love about stress relief. It's like we don't have to go spend money. We don't have to do anything elaborate. Like literally call a friend or go for a walk with a friend, which is two birds, one stone, right? That's catching up with a girlfriend and it's getting steps. So anyway, all that to say, feeling good. So I was like, let me record a podcast right now. This would be great. So also, second thing I want to say before we jump on in is if you are an avid listener of the show, please make sure that you are subscribed to the show. Or if this is your first time listening and you're enjoying it, then please subscribe. That actually helps get the show in front of other people that are like you, people who might be interested in the show. It's how the algorithm pushes it out to other people. So if you're not subscribed, please make sure you hit that plus follow sign and subscribe to the show. That would help so much. And then also, if you are loving the show, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating and review. You can do that on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can leave a 5-star rating if you go to the show and then like search for the muscle makeover and then scroll down towards the bottom of the episodes. You'll see where you can leave a 5-star rating, write a review, let us know if you're loving it. We really, really appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that. I say we, like me and the mini me next to me, or me and Oreo. So anyway, really would appreciate that. And let's jump on into this topic today, guys. So injuries. Injuries are no fun. Also, this may or may not even be an injury, but let's just say whatever, fill in the blank, a reason why you might need to take time away from training, or you're concerned about losing muscle for whatever reason, or you're concerned about fat gain in like maybe an off season or a time where you can't be training or working out as intensely or as frequently as you normally do, this episode is for you. So, the question that came from the member in our Facebook group, she said, "Do you have a podcast when on when you take time off from training. She said maybe like how long of a break from weights does your muscle start to go away? She said she heard like 2 weeks, and she put like a oh my gosh face. And she said, I pulled a muscle in my back and need to take time off from weights. Should I lower calories to prevent fat gain? I usually work out 5 to 6 days a week. Thanks. Shout out to Megan. I'm going to butcher your last name, but shout out to Megan Widmer. So I like your name, Megan. So let's talk about that. And she first mentioned, like, I heard it's 2 weeks that you could start losing muscle. And you are somewhat on point. There is definitely some truth to that. So muscle atrophy, or the loss of muscle mass, that can begin to occur within a pretty short period of time, unfortunately, if the muscles are not used or exercised. So, like, in general, noticeable muscle atrophy is going to start to occur within a few weeks of inactivity, but the exact time frame can really vary depending on factors like your age, your fitness level, your overall health, things like that. So it's, again, this is where everything with fitness is not a black and white answer. Like, it's not like, oh, you will lose all your muscle after 3 to 5 weeks. No, like, it's going to depend on different factors for each person. Again, things like your age, your current fitness level, when you gained the injury, all those kind of things. But regular exercise and physical activity are going to help you maintain muscle mass and prevent atrophy. So after an injury happens, the muscle atrophy can begin pretty rapidly if you're, like, especially if you're completely immobilized, or if you are having significantly reduced activity in the affected area. What you can kind of expect is, like, within the first week, you might notice like some muscle atrophy can actually even start as little as like 3 to 5 days of inactivity if the injury requires like complete immobilization. So think something like being in a cast or a sling. That is going to, you might notice more significant loss if the muscles are completely immobilized. So, like, think of your arm in a cast. Like, that's a lot different immobilization than, like, say, having kind of like some tennis elbow or something like that, where yes, you are having to kind of work around that injury, but you're not completely immobilized, right? If you are completely immobilized, you might start noticing that atrophy much sooner because you can't work the muscle or the surrounding joints like at all, right? The other thing, if let's say you're not completely immobilized, you still might notice atrophy. Like, even after 2 weeks, you might notice some noticeable muscle loss. Is more common after about 2 weeks of inactivity. And then over several weeks, if the inactivity continues for several weeks, the muscle atrophy can become pretty significant. And you might notice like reductions in muscle size, in your strength, in your endurance. And that can happen as quickly as, like, even 3 weeks. So there's going to be a range in there depending on how active can you be, how immobilized are you, and then of course those other factors like your age and fitness level, etc. So it ranges and varies, but unfortunately you can see that muscle loss and that strength loss pretty quickly. Now, I will say, like, just think about even when you go on vacation or something, if you don't work out for a week, when you get back from vacation, you probably feel a lot weaker getting back into your lifts, right? Or you even notice that you end up a lot more sore after your workouts than you normally do from taking that week off. That's because you did lose a little bit of muscle strength. Now, if you were doing other things, this is kind of to give you the reassurance that don't worry or don't freak out if you have to take a week or two off from training for whatever reason, because you're probably, unless if you are immobilized by something or really injured, you're probably doing other forms of activity. You're probably swimming or hiking or going for walks, whatever. You're not like completely immobilized and completely inactive. There's a really big difference between those two things. You still, if you're not, strength training or doing the normal things that you're doing to build up the muscle, you might notice a little bit of strength loss or a little bit of atrophy if you go on like a couple weeks on end doing that, but you're not going to lose all your muscle right away. Okay. So, like, don't don't fret or worry about that. And especially if you're doing these other things that I'm about to share with you that will help maintain your muscle mass, you don't have to worry about it just like falling off your body. Okay. So let's jump into a couple of things that can help. So, first and foremost, if you have an injury and you're working around that, even doing range of motion exercises can be helpful. So, even if the injured area is immobilized, just performing gentle range of motion exercises in nearby joints can help maintain your circulation and also prevent stiffness. So, this is kind of like indirectly related to maintaining your muscle. But if something is immobilized, what can you move the surrounding joints, like the further away joints, right? So, so like if you have a bum elbow and you can't move like your elbow down, can you move your shoulder joint, right? And like even do range of motion exercises at the shoulder versus the elbow down. Another thing, this is a really big one that can help with reducing muscle atrophy is isometric exercises. So isometric is just where you are tensing the muscle and you're holding it, but you're not moving through space. So it involves contracting the muscle without moving the joint, which can help maintain muscle tone. So, for an example, this could look like tightening your quads, your quadriceps, like that upper thigh leg muscle, and tightening it, squeezing it without moving your knee. So normally if we're working the quads, we're usually probably doing like a squat or a lunge or something like that, right? Or a leg extension. Well, you can do an isometric hold and just go ahead and right now, as you're sitting or standing, wherever you are, think about squeezing and tightening that leg muscle and tightening the quad. You don't even have to move the knee joint. So if you have, messed up your knee somehow, can you still perform a isometric quad hold and use that muscle without using the joint? So that's one thing. Another example would be, like a bicep. Instead of doing, say, like a bicep curl, let's say you have a bum elbow or shoulder or something like that, and you can't really move those joints very well. Or let's say maybe you're even casted or something. Can you flex your bicep muscle? Can you flex and hold? Literally do it right now and flex and hold that bicep muscle. You should be able to feel that kind of pump happening in your bicep and the blood flow going to that muscle. And even doing those isometric holds, even if you can't do, you're not using progressive overload in the sense of adding weight or anything like that, just do some of those isometric exercises and that will help keep the muscle tone there. It'll help prevent some of that atrophy because you are actually still using the muscle. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to send that stimulus to the muscles of like, hey, we're still using you, maybe not how you normally get used, but we still need you. Hang on. And you're trying to stimulate the muscle. Okay. Another thing too is cross training. So if one part of your body is injured, then focus on exercising the rest of your body to maintain like your overall fitness level. So think this could be like upper versus lower body. Do you have a lower body injury? Okay. What can you do on your upper body and vice versa? If you've injured something upper body, can you still do lower body exercises? And like, could you still use the machines at the gym? Things like that. I am always of the mind, and this is what I coach my clients through, is like injuries or things are bound to sometimes happen. And it's like instead of throwing in the towel and being like, well, I guess I can't train, it's like you can always do something, almost always. Unless again, if you are like wheelchair or bedridden, then okay, like different story, right? But even then, could you do isometric holds? What can you do? Like, let's find the things that you can do, even if you are bedridden or whatever. Like, there's almost always something you can do. And especially this goes for like smaller injuries too, where it's like oftentimes we can get really deflated and defeated because we have an injury and it's annoying. It's really frustrating, right? And we feel like it's setting us back, but let's focus on all the things that we can do. I was struggling with some rib issues like several months ago, and it was super annoying and it was lingering for months on end from getting a really terrible cough and coughing my ribs out of place. So it was super annoying. But I was like, so I couldn't really do deadlifts because that hurt to pull, the pulling movement hurt. I couldn't really do pull-ups or push-ups. I couldn't do a bunch of things that I normally do. And it was so annoying. But I was like, okay, how else can I isolate the muscles? How else can I do maybe some machines or other back work that's not going to irritate my rib cage? And I figured it out and I found everything else that I could do to work around it. So that's where cross training comes in handy. If one part of your body is injured, you can still work the other parts of the body, and that is going to maintain your overall fitness level. And that is going to help you maintain and retain that muscle mass. And one thing that too that's really cool, you guys, is there's been studies that have shown that even working one side of the body can help the other injured side. So mind blowing, right? You would think like, okay, let's say you have one arm in a cast and the other arm is totally fine. Well, if you do bicep curls and tricep extensions and you like are trying to work that one arm, then it can actually help because of the signals that your brain sends to your body. It can actually help your body compensate on the injured side so that it loses less muscle and it holds on to more muscle because your body is like trying to stay balanced, right? Its goal is like, okay, she's still sending signals to this muscle to grow and to be strong, and it can help compensate on the other side that is injured and maybe reduce that muscle loss. You still might end up, and you still will end up if you're injured for an extended period of time and can't work that muscle with a lopsided arms or whatever body part, legs. But it can help reduce the muscle loss to an extent. So that's where, some people are like, well, I shouldn't work the one side because I'll look like Popeye on one side and have this like massive muscle compared to the other. Yeah, you don't have to, but it could help you in the long run. So if it was me, I would do it. I would totally still be working the other side. Plus, it's going to still help you maintain your overall fitness level. And then when you come off the injury and you're starting to recover, yes, will you have to build back up? And yes, will you have kind of a dominant side and a weaker side? Yes. But that's again where you can build that strength back up, do some isolation exercises, things like that to even them out again. But that's a really cool thing. I tried to get my husband to do that after he had a collarbone injury. He broke his collarbone after a snowboarding accident. And actually had to have two surgeries for it and has like metals and screws in there now. But I tried to get him to work the other side of his body, but I couldn't quite get him on board for it. So anyway, he's recovering still. He's building back his muscle now. It's all good. But it could be something worth trying if you are worried about losing that muscle. Another thing that you can do is EMS, or electrical muscle stimulation. And, typically that's going to be done under a professional supervision. So that could be from somewhere like a physical therapy clinic or a wellness center, or like even a chiropractic office could have the EMS, like muscle stimulation. It's basically just electrodes that they put on your muscles, and that will stimulate the muscle and kind of create a muscle contraction. So the electrons or electrodes are going to be put on your muscle, and then it's going to stimulate the muscle for it to contract. And that contraction again is going to help with that muscle mass. So that can be another option if you have that available to you. And again, this would probably be talking to someone who is, having a little bit more of a severe injury, but really anyone could do this and go get that electrical stimulation. And I think that's the last one. So those are some options for the physical part of things that can help you to maintain your muscle. Going back to Megan's original question about her back, she had injured her back. So that's where I'm like, what else can you do for upper body, Megan? Also, are all back exercises off limits or just some? Like I said, when I had my rib injury, it was like from my chest all the way to my back was painful. But I could still do some exercises like seated cable rows and even some, what else did I do? I think like even some lat pull downs I could do, but there's just some things I couldn't do and some things I could do. So find the things you can do. Or even can you just at least do isolated bicep and tricep exercises or shoulder exercises? So find those things that you can do and don't worry about the rest. Um, And then let's move on to nutrition really quick. So let's just touch on this. So she also asked about how to minimize fat gain. And, especially if you're coming off of an injury or if your activity is reduced a good bit, this is going to be important. So you may want to compensate your calories for less movement, but you don't want to do it too much because you want to prevent muscle loss and your body also needs sufficient calories to heal. So that's where naturally, if you're moving less, you're going to be burning less, right? So if you have done like if you've calculated your maintenance calories before or use like a TDEE calculator, then you might have certain maintenance calories based off your current activity level. And if you're moving less, then you're going to need to adjust your maintenance calories down, right? If you never have calculated your calories, you can literally go to tdeecalculator.net. That stands for Total Daily Energy Expenditure. So it's tdeecalculator.net, and you can calculate what your maintenance calorie should be. Maintenance calories is just how many calories can you eat to maintain your body weight. So, that naturally is going to come down if you're moving less. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to restrict too much because that's where you're not going to be fueling your body enough to maintain and hold on to that muscle. And muscle is very calorically expensive to have on your body. So, meaning it burns more calories. So, if your body is in a severe calorie deficit or really underfueled, one of the first things it's going to pull from and lose is that muscle mass. It takes no prisoners. It's like, hey, muscle, like, especially if you're not giving it any stimulus, like strength training or those isometric holds or anything, telling it that, hey, we're still using this muscle, it's going to break down the muscle and use that as fuel. So, you don't want to be in too much of a deficit, if any at all. You really just want to adjust your calories down to be at your new maintenance, whatever that is. And I really wouldn't suggest trying to lose body fat when you're recovering from an injury. The main thing I'd be focused on is just maintaining, like trying to not gain body fat, because what you also need to heal is sufficient calories. Your body is already in a really stressed out state from this injury, right? Your body sees that as a stressor. Like it just went through you know, this injury, it's in pain, it's recovering, it's healing. And then your body also sees a calorie deficit as a stressor. It's an okay stressor for a short period of time to lose body fat, but it is another stressor on the body. So why would we want to put, a stress on top of a stress and add insult to injury? We don't. We need to fuel your body with enough food, with enough nourishment to help it heal and recover. So I would advise eating at your maintenance calories, but you may need to recalculate what your new maintenance calories are. And, try to avoid probably a calorie deficit or fat loss phase during this. And just the goal here should be like, let's avoid or minimize fat gain. And then the other thing too is just keep up with your protein, protein, protein. That is also going to help you to minimize your muscle loss if you're refueling with enough protein and enough calories and carbs and fats, but really make sure you keep that protein high. And then also anti-inflammatory foods, like your omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, vitamin C and vitamin E. All of those can help reduce inflammation and support healing. So really just trying to make sure you're having basically what can you get those nutrients from. You can get it from fatty fish, you can get it from fruits and veggies, you can get it from your lean protein sources, things like that. So really just try to eat whole foods for the most part. Lean proteins, complex carbs, healthy fats, and that's going to help you hit some of those nutritional needs. So keep your protein up, keep your calories moderate, maybe recalculate for your new maintenance calories for this season that you're in if you do have to reduce your training or activity. But otherwise, one last thing is just if you can't really do any strength training at all, specifically talking to Megan in this question, then go for walks. Like that's where I always tell clients if for whatever reason they have something that's really preventing them from strength training, then go for walks instead during your gym time. So, like, just get that activity and movement in, even going for a hike. If you can lunge while you're walking, that's awesome, whatever. Those things are going to help a lot as well. So it's about keeping up your overall activity and your overall fitness. So I hope you guys found this helpful. We're going to wrap it up right there. And if you do have questions like this, please DM me on social media. All of my social media handles are in the show notes. This is literally what I do is I take questions that I get throughout the weeks and the months and I put them into podcast episodes. So to help answer your questions specifically. And I know if one person has a question, multiple people are probably wondering the same thing. So same goes for you. If you have a question in your mind, it could probably help someone else too. So feel free to message me and let me know. And it might end up in a podcast down the road. So anyway, guys, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day and I will catch you on the next one.